Today we'd like to welcome Hillingdon Borough defender and captain Mike Evans to the non-league radio show. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
Before we talk about Hillingdon Borough, I want to take things back to some of your earliest memories you have of playing football or being involved in football or watching.
Yeah, it's quite a nice memory for me actually. The earliest one that I can remember, I was it was in my local park, and it was for it was like a little soccer school that a guy used to run. I remember going down there and we was separated into three. I remember it quite clearly. We separated into three different groups, and halfway through, I was pulled out of this middle group that I was in and put into the top group and was playing with boys a good few years older than me. And it was in that I got scouted by Arsenal and ended up going down to Highbury in the indoor facility that they had at Highbury, having trials there. So that's my earliest memory, but it's obviously quite a fond one, so it does stick out. I must have been 7-ish, so it's a while ago. But yeah, that's my earliest memory. Because to be picked up and then go and do your trials down at Highbury was something I won't forget.
I bet that's a massive thing as a child to get, especially for Arsenal or a big team like Arsenal.
Yeah. So that was I doubt I'll forget that in a hurry.
No. And who was there? Anything that got you interested in football initially? Was it a parent or was it a team you were following?
My dad's always played himself, and he was always going down to Arsenal as well. So you just follow suit with the old man, didn't you? Just going down to Arsenal with him and following football just because of him. Really, that's what really got me into it. And then he did end up taking over and running one of my clubs as a kid as well. But because of him, he was into football, Arsenal. You just kind of follow what your dad does.
Definitely. You've probably answered my next question. I was going to say, who did you support as a boy? I may be wrong.
Yeah, I didn't really have much choice in it. It was always going to be Arsenal. And I remember the day I asked my dad who he supported as well. I've got a few memories that jump at me as a kid thinking about it. My nan came round with a colouring book, and it had loads of different players in it from like the 90s. And I remember saying to my dad in the kitchen, who do you support? And him telling me Arsenal. So I said to my nan, right, let's go through this book and find the Arsenal player. And it was Ian Wright. I remember that clearly. It was Ian Wright. So I said, I'm going to colour this in. And that's kind of when the Arsenal thing started for me, because I remember asking him and trying to find the Arsenal players and colour them in. That was what got me hooked. And then from there, it was, you got no choice, boy. It's Arsenal.
Yeah. So you were playing football quite young.
Yeah.
Were you a defender when you were a young kid, or was it a position you always wanted to play, or did you want to be up front?
No, I was always a centre midfielder. I only really have been a centre back for the last 2 and a bit years properly. Always been a centre midfielder. Always had a pretty decent engine on me to get up and down, like box to box centre midfielder. And just loved being in the middle. Loved everything, just being involved and everything going through you. So that's where it started for me, was as a centre midfielder, and then. As time goes on, your legs don't let you do it as much, so you end up dropping back. So now centre half, but I do enjoy playing centre half. So I think even going forward, if my legs could do it, I enjoy the centre back position.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the best thing about being a centre back? Is it because you can see the whole game going on, or you're getting lots of touches of the ball?
It's that I like the tackling side of it. Just being in the fight, the scrap, digging deep, discipline of the centre half, the organisation, like getting the back four organised and having your midfield in front of you organised. Just being a bit of a leader. I feel that comes from centre backs, and you get that in centre midfielders as well. But you see the whole picture, like you say, at the back. But yeah, I like the fight that you get at the back with the strikers, and the last ditch tackles and throwing your body on the line. That's what I enjoy doing the most now.
No, great stuff. Can you remember what was the first football club you played for? Maybe it's after, well, juniors, and then maybe it's when you became 18 or after that.
So juniors was a team called St Lawrence's. It was just a local club that started. It was a Thursday night indoor five-a-side thing that it started down at the local church. It was held indoors there. And there was quite a lot of interest that come to that, which then progressed on to becoming a team. It was just a one-team club. It wasn't one of these big clubs that have got multiple age groups. And it was managed by my dad and two other guys they were all important figures for me, and what I learned as a kid from them. A lot that I learned from them, I was able to take into my teams and further on from there. But yeah, that was the first team, was a team called St Lawrence's, which it actually is still running now, but it's just grown. It's got a lot bigger. There's a guy that's taken over, and he's just grown the club massive in the area. It's got multiple age groups and really well run club now.
Excellent.
So that's nice that club's grown to the size that it is now.
And then, obviously, now you're playing for Hillingdon Borough. How long have you been playing for Hillingdon for?
I went there just after the first initial lockdown finished. My friend took over down there, gave me a call during lockdown, just before the end of lockdown. He gave me a call and he said, "Mike, do you want to come back and play for me?" And I undenied. I was like, I don't know, because I was knocking on 30. I was like, I don't know if I've got it in me to go back and play. And he said, "Look, just come down to training and see how you get on." And I've not looked back from it, to be honest. I'm glad that I did go back to it. But yeah, that's how I've been at Hillingdon, just shy of 2 years now.
So for people listening who maybe haven't heard of Hillingdon, do you want to tell a little bit about Hillingdon and the league they're playing?
Yeah, so we're in the Combined Counties League. The club's based in Ruislip, which is West London way. They're quite a well-known club in the area, like non-league area, because they've been going for a number of years, but had some troubled years just before the lockdown, and then when my mate took over, and just trying to regrow it, which is going to be a project. Obviously, they had to strip the whole squad, so that when they took over, I think there was one player that was left from pre-COVID. So obviously, with that comes bringing in fresh faces, which to grow and get the club where they need to get it to is going to take a couple of years. But we're in a much better position this season from where we were last year. New faces come in, experience, better talent. So this is year 2. So hopefully, going forward in the next few more years, it can grow on and get back to where it should be as a club.
No, I'm furiously looking at. I've got a big non-league step thing on the wall with every single team on, and I can just see from a distance. Obviously, step 6. So the promotion and relegation is there, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
To move through into obviously step 5, step 4. So what sort of facilities is there at Hillingdon? Like I say, I'm going blind here, so I don't know the ground capacity, fans.
Yeah, so
I don't expect you to know exact numbers of capacity, but rough.
So there is a seated stand behind one of the goals. Capacity wise, I'd say.
I'm furiously typing it in here to have a look online.
Oh yeah. It could, as a whole ground, it's probably a couple of thousand worth with standing and seating.
Yeah, 3587 it says, Mike. 3587.
Right, yeah. There's a clubhouse that overlooks the pitch, which is a nice clubhouse. And then there's training facilities there as well. It's quite a big space that they've got there. So it's got massive potential to grow and move forward. Just needs, like I say, a bit of time to get back up and running, and bit of TLC the club needs just to push it on now.
No problem. I'm guessing all you guys who playing are all part time working and
yeah,
I was going to say
training Tuesdays, Thursdays, unless there's a game on a Tuesdays, and then games on Saturdays.
So what's the travel like in that league? Is there much travelling? I'm guessing they try and group people together in areas best they can.
Yeah, furthest that I can think off the top of my head is probably about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. I live just outside of the area now, so some of the travel for me from where I am can be 2 hours ish to just over 2 hours. It's down like the south toward, not as far as Portsmouth, but in between London and Portsmouth, down that way. There's a lot of games that's over around Heathrow as well. So it's all like down that part.
Spot on. It's great that you can go from step 6 and progress at some point as well. So that's good stuff. Right, a couple of little other ones. This is where you can, because you mentioned on the training there, so I'll jump that one. This is where you can plug a few people. The best player you've played with doesn't have to be at the club you're at now. Could be previous or when you've been at Arsenal or anything like that.
Played with one that will jump to mind will be Sam Cox. Played with him as a kid. And there was one of the youth clubs I played for. We were very good, so we had quite a lot of good players down there. But Sam Cox is probably one that was in with my team that would jump out. Yeah.
And one that you've played against?
One that always jumps to mind, and this is going back to when we was at school. I think because I always had to make sure I was at the top of my game. Quite whether he was or whether he was just toning it back and taking it easy, I'm not sure. But there was a guy called Billy Gibson when we played high school level. That I'm pretty sure he played. Well, he did play for Watford, but I'm pretty sure he played first team football at 15 or 16. He was a good player, and I always knew that when you're turning up for the school games that you was going to have to play 110% because you had to work hard. He was always one that jumped out name-wise for me.
Have you got a sporting idol or someone you've always looked up to? And it doesn't have to be football; it could be anything else. But some sort of sporting idol.
Growing up, I loved Patrick Vieira. Being a centre midfielder, going to Arsenal, I always used to watch him the most and try to base my game on him. Box to box, tackling, because he was an all-rounder where he'd just do everything. So I tried to base my game on him. So he's even now I love seeing him on the TV working at Palace. It's nice to see him in England doing the managing over here. So he's always been a massive sporting hero for me.
And what do you do outside of football? What do you do for fun, or do you play other sports?
Not competitively, but I've played a bit of tennis lately, just with friends, family. But most of my time, I'm just trying to rest and recover my body to be ready for a Saturday, because you either got a game on a Tuesday or train Thursdays, match a Saturday. So I'm just trying to rest and recover, but spending time with family, friends, like loved ones. I've got a little girl who's 9, so spend a lot of time with her, doing bits with her, playing. Before this, we were playing board games actually. So that's what I do. That's what I enjoy doing.
No, good stuff. The next question I ask everyone, the goalkeepers I've had response from, they're mainly the ones that have got one. But do you have a superstition or a routine before every game? Some of the goalkeepers are right boot, right glove, left boot, left glove, or they don't change their gloves, but maybe different for a defender.
Yeah, I don't really have a superstition. There is one thing that I do regularly. I do it before every game, not as a superstition. I just do this. I don't put my match day shirt on until literally we're about to walk out. So obviously you go out, you do your warm-ups, you have your warm-up tops on, and then when you come back in, team talk's done. But socks are on, shorts are on, your boots are on, you're all kit to go. But most of the boys will all put their shirts on and listen to the team talk, but I'll just sit there with my shirt off just draped over my legs, and I won't put it on until literally we're just about to go out. I don't know why I do that. I think it's because I'm hot and I'm just trying to cool down. Most of the time I've got a towel wrapped around me and I'm just trying to dry my body off, get the sweat off me before I put my top on. I think that's probably why. But even when I'm not hot, I still don't do it. It's just something I do as a pattern.
No, that's good. At least you've got a superstition, so people just don't have one.
Yeah.
Not superstition, a routine. Sorry.
The shirt's always facing down as well, so my number's always looking at me. so, yeah, you'd probably say it is a superstition without even realising.
Probably it is. And do you have a best or a worst, well, either or, in football, a best moment?
Coming back after COVID, I think at the time I didn't realise it, but when you sit and think about it and you go back and you're mixing with everybody again, and you've got that the team spirit, the being in the dressing room with the boys, the laughs. I think that's something that everybody probably took for granted until football got stopped. So returning was always good because it was nice to see smiles, and like I said earlier, we was a completely new team after that. So there was only one guy that knew the club, that everybody else was new. So it was meeting new people, meeting new faces. So that was nice to go back to football after it was all shut down, everything was stopped. Worst moment is an easy one. I ruptured my Achilles when I was 16.
It's got me cringing here.
Yeah, it was bad. It took near on 2 years to get back. Even now, still, my calf muscle, and this is 16 years ago nearly, my calf muscle's still not the same. But at the time, I didn't realise it as well. But looking back, it affects you mentally as well. Getting a big injury like that. I'd never had an injury before that. Never had one, no muscle, nothing. And then to get something big like that was hard because you spent your whole life playing football, and that's all you knew. And then it literally just everything gets stripped away from you. You're on crutches at an age of 16 as well. It's quite a hard time to pick up an injury like that. And it took me a long. I fell out of love with the game as well because of it. So it took me a long time to get that love back and feel happy playing football once the injury was better and the rehab process of it all. It was very hard. That
I can imagine. I don't play football to a level. I play cricket, and I've never been injured. But I guess if I did, and you've got to sit out the game for any length of time, or having to watch other people play while you can't, it must be devastating. Like,
and football is most of it's played in through the rain and the cold, and you're standing there in the rain and the cold watching your teammates train or matches, and you can't do nothing but stand there. And it was hard to take. Definitely affected me in a big way, actually. And I think that was probably the worst time. There's no good time to pick up an injury, but I think that was probably the worst time in terms of trying to progress on to men's football at that time as well, coming out of the youth side of it into men's football. It all just was very bad timing, I feel.
Do you have a favourite game from your career?
Probably the first cup win that I was involved in was while we was at school. Our school team wasn't very good, actually, if I'm honest. It was pretty bad. It was a pretty bad team. We used to get thumped to most teams in our school years. But we got to year 11 and we went on a bit of a cup run and we ended up winning the school cup, which was, I don't think anyone would have expected that. We played our local rival school in the final and beat them. So that was nice to win something. It was the last game for school as well. First cup win in something that we were amazed to get through round one, let alone go on and win it. So that was good, that game.
And what sort of advice would you give to any young children interested in becoming a defender?
Biggest thing would be stick with it. I think you're going to get times where it's hard. especially if you want to progress on and play at a decent level, because a lot of kids at youth level will, if they're any good, they'll be the star in their youth team. And then when you go on to play at a decent level, everybody's good. It's not just you. And you've got to compete and fight for your shirt, which is what some players might not be used to. They'll be used to being the stars in their team, and then they go into this environment where everybody can play football now. But just stick with it, keep working hard, and not to give up, because a lot of people will probably just turn their backs on the fact that, you've got to fight for your shirt now, you've got to work hard. But if you want it enough, you've just got to stick with it and enjoy playing, because you're 16 one minute and then the next year in your 30s and you haven't got many years left.
Yeah.
So don't throw away the time that you have, and just enjoy it. Yeah, have patience, have discipline. Make sure you're surrounded by the right people in terms of management wise as well. Make sure you've got people that understand you as a person and can allow you to grow as a player and a person, both on the pitch and.
Definitely. And lastly, is there anybody within Hillingdon Borough or outside of the club that you would like to give a shout out to?
Well, Alex contacted you and put me forward for it, so I think it's only right. Alex, Bob's name. But yeah, everybody at the club at the moment, management, the players that have come in, we've got a really good group this year. Everybody's getting on really well. There's a real fight for each other on the pitch. So yeah, just everyone down at the club. Great
stuff. And if people want to follow Hillingdon Borough on Twitter, it's at HBFC_1872. Well, Mike, it's been great chatting to you. Many thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us on.
Not a problem.